My vintage shirt dress sew along. No, excuse me, usual standard stuff where I'm trying to get the focus, so I'll just get this sorted before we begin. I had it all perfect, and then what happens is I have to basically get all of the I have to get everything lined up in terms of the description, and then I lose focus on this. It's very annoying. Right, let's just brighten this up so you can really see me. Oh gosh, maybe a little bit too bright. There we go. Oof, is that bright? It's very bright for me, but is that good for you? Hopefully. Welcome, yes, to the second part of the vintage shirt dress sew along. This is for making a shirt out of it, not the actual standard one. So I don't think I've ever done a sew along with a vintage shirt dress. So there is a part one to this. So if you missed it, we did that last week and we got up to this stage. So the collar's gone on, the bodice is kind of sewn together, and we are ready to do the facing and finish the kind of rest of the lapel. So that's what we're going to do today. And then I said that I would try my best to put a sleeve in, which I have. Well, not a sleeve, so cut a sleeve, so that I can finish it or put a sleeve in with you. Now, because I'm doing a shirt, I didn't really want to do the sleeve that came with the vintage shirt dress. So what I did is I had a look at other patterns that I had, and I just took the shirt sleeve, the long sleeve from the Nicole, which is a sew over it pattern. But to be honest, you probably will get away with most classic sleeves that you can just pop in. I haven't checked, I might have to do a bit more easing, so there might be a little bit more of a puff there, but I don't mind that. So I've made one sleeve anyway ready so that we can put a sleeve in together. I've got to turn that brightness down. I tell you, Mow, that is gonna, it's like looking at the sun. I've got a very powerful light because of the time of year, but I don't think we need it to be that powerful. So what I'm going to do first is the facing, and then we'll do the sleeve later. So I have prepared the facing already. So in the diagram, you'll see you've got this sort of interesting shape, like so, okay? And that is basically the facing, the two long upper facings placed right sides up, and then the back neck facing right sides down, and the kind of curved edges are going inwards, and that's the kind of way it needs to be. Now we haven't got a dress here, so we've just lengthened those. If you remember when we talked about the pattern last week, we've just lengthened those to fit the length of the shirt that we're making. So I have also done a bit of sneaky. I've gone ahead and overlocked mine already, even though ideally you want to overlock it after. And the reason why I've done it now is just because I didn't want to be getting the machine, the overlocker out. It's annoying for you. So that's why I've done that. But you would be overlocking it or finishing these seams afterwards. So let's go ahead and stitch that together. So we've got right side together. Remind ourselves of the seam allowance is 1.5 centimetres, 5/8 of an inch. I'm going to sew these and then we're going to chat. I know we haven't had a little hey who's joining yet, but let's just get straight into some sewing, and then whilst I'm doing some pressing, we can see who is here. So make sure you reverse at the beginning and at the end. We nearly had a crisis as I thought I didn't have my sewing machine lead because I took it to a friend's the other day because I wanted to do some sewing from there, and I thought I'd left it there. So I was in a right panic, but fortunately I then found it in my car. So, who is with us tonight? I've already seen Vanessa say hi. Someone else said hi, but I didn't catch your name. Let's see where people are joining us from. Who have we got in what places around the world? Always nice to see. Oh, I need to plug that in, don't I, Coco? It was plugged in. I don't know if you can see, but the tip of Coco there. I'm going to finger press that just for the time being. Press those seams open. When you've interfaced it, it is a bit easier to finger press. Okay. Hey! Oh, hello in Florida. Hi there. Thank you for joining me today. Hi in Cape Town. All the international crowd joining today. Thank you so much to those of you, by the way, who donated, bought me a coffee last week. I really appreciate it. Link is in the description. So if you want to see more of these sew-alongs, then I'm happy to do more. I just have to pay for my dinner, just like everyone else, and all my bills. So thank you for supporting me. Oh, hello in West Lothian. Hi in Athens. Yay! Oh my goodness. So yes, in case you haven't heard me discuss it before, I want to make these free for everybody. So that's why I'm doing them not on Zoom and doing it as like an open thing that anyone can join. But for me to make some money, which I need to because I am a flower farmer now, and in the winter I don't have any income coming in. So what I'm hoping to do is come back to the sewing world in the winter, in the down season, for and be able to sew and earn a living from that in the winter. And then in the summer, I'll be going back to my flowers, and maybe I'll probably squeeze in still a little bit of sewing. But that's what Buy Me a Coffee is all about. So on Buy Me a Coffee, you can basically buy me a coffee for £5, and that way I can keep these free, so everyone can watch them. But if enough of you support me, then it's worthwhile for me to do them. Well, it's always worthwhile, but you know what I'm trying to say. So thank you to those of you who have, and if you haven't, please do. If you're enjoying this, another thing you can do so that we can reach more people is to give me a thumbs up and subscribe as well. Right, blurb over. We're now going to pin this facing onto the shirt. So, here's the shot. I'm going to lay it right side facing up at the moment. I'm just trying to think. Yeah, right side facing up, but I'm going to turn it so the back is going that way, and then I have the front here. And I'm just going to pull it down so that you can see on the camera. I'll just turn the camera down so you're going to lose my head. But this is more important than my head, so we're going to be able to see more clearly what I'm doing. So I've got some annoying threads here, so let's just get rid of those. So what the facing is going to do is it's going to sandwich the collar, and then it's also going to bag out here and sort of face here essentially, which will then become the lapel. So let's line up our curves here. Now there is, I believe, yes, there's a notch there on the curve. So we've got the curve there, the notch there. Then we've got the corner here to line up. So that's the corner in there. And then we've got the shoulder seam, which is sort of a front yoke seam that kind of comes down to gather into the yoke. That needs to line up with this seam on the facing. And keep those, I know I didn't press that open, but I finger pressed it open, so let's make sure that stays like that. And then as we come round, we have got a notch there, so that lines up too. We have got, I don't think we've got another notch until we get round. No, we've just got another notch round here. So we've got another notch there. Then I've got, sorry, I'm moving this just to make it easier for me, but hopefully that's still making sense to you where I am on the shirt. Then we've got the seam here lining up. So let's make sure that's pressed open still. Woo, bent pin. And then we have got a corner. Now one thing I've not done is mark my pivot point, which we'll need to do. So you should have a circle that was on the pattern that you chalk marked, which is where we pivot there, which is really important. And another thing I'm going to show you what we can do is we can draw our curve on as well, just to make it really easy for us when we're sewing. So I'm going to then pin around the rest of the neckline here. Like so. And then I'm going to pin the nice and easy bit, which is just coming down the length of the shirt. So we've got a notch there. I'll put a pin in between here, just to hold that together. My face interfacing is starting to come off again, actually. It did do that. This is really lovely interfacing that I believe Sew Over It still sells. Really nice soft interfacing, but it is because it's so delicate, it melts easily, so I always use a low heat, and then sometimes the heat's too low for it. Okay, I'm just going to do the same on this side. Okay. Right, so that is now fully pinned. If I lay that like that, so you can see. Now I'm going to get a pen, a fabric pen, just to mark this. A chalk pen, I've got a Frickson here. And also this, because you won't need this. This is just because I haven't marked my pivot point, but it's essentially at 1 centimetre diagonally from that corner. But you won't need to do that, so as I said. Now, if you're worried about creating a really smooth straight line stitching wise here, which is very important because this is going to be the final shape of the lapel, you can draw yourself, and you could use pattern master if you've got a nice curve on your pattern master. You can draw yourself your stitch line. That way, because when you're sort of actually at this point, it is harder to see where you're going around the curve. So if you draw yourself a nice line, you can feed that into the middle of your foot and follow that. And that way you can guarantee that you'll have a nice shape. So that's essentially running parallel to that edge there. I'm going to do it again here as well. It's quite hard actually on this interfacing, does not like being drawn on. Okay. So now I've got really obvious line to follow on both of those. Okie dokes, let's come back to you, but still be showing the sewing. So let's do that bit of sewing now. So I'm actually going to do this in a slightly different way to how the instructions might say. So I am going to start sewing just before this curve here, and I'm going to finish at the opposite side in the same position. So this little bit here. Then I'm going to sew this in one section going down towards the hem, and this in one section down towards the hem. And that way we're not going to get a drag where it's all coming in one direction. So ideally you need to go both sides like that and that. but this way is also going to have that same effect. So we are going to be sewing this with a centimetre seam allowance. So you need to line up with 3/8 of an inch or 1 centimetre, 10 millimetres on your machine. Get yourself really in a good position. I'd say out of, not to scare you, but out of all the sewing that you're doing on this pattern, this is the most important. Make sure you're on a good stitch length. So I'm using stitch length 3, and we're just going to go nice and slowly. And as we're coming up to that first pen line, I'm going to feed that pen line onto the middle of my foot. I've got a groove in my presser foot there, and that is going to allow, I'm going to focus on that to keep my curve nice and smooth. You can, if you want to, very gently pivot. I say very gently because if you do this in any way that is too sharp, you will end up getting little corner points. We don't want that, so I'm just very gently pivoting. I don't want little angles. Okay. And now we're coming up to our pivot point. Just keep checking that everything underneath is as flat as it can be. So here we are, coming up to it. There we go, pivoty, pivoty. Line up with the 10 as you pivot round. And then we're on to the neck. So at this point it's going to feel thicker because we have got the collar, there we go, there's the word, the collar sandwiched in between. I have come from the field today. My face has gone down. It was really red from being in the cold. Just gradually working my way through clearing up all the beds and prepping, laying compost. But I've got the worst cut here. Oh. And I've stabbed myself with thorns from roses and then the wars. So I get home for about 4-ish, 4:30, and the first thing I do is run a hot bath just to warm myself up. So there we go. I'm coming up now to the next side. Okay, so we're obviously, you've seen I've been taking my pins out as I get to them, but I'm stopping and starting a lot just so I can take the pins out carefully and keep everything really together. So I'm using pressure with my hands, holding them down to when the pin goes. I'm using my fingers to keep everything together, so using some extra pressure with them, sort of like that. Right, we're coming to the next pivot point. Needle in, lift your presser foot up, and you're pivoting round, and you should be lined up with the 10. And then we've got another pen line that we're there to follow to help us create a nice curve. Just gently lifting up and moving round. And then down we come. So I've gone round that nice curve, kept my curve that I wanted to have, that mirrors the shape of the edge there. So now I'm actually just going to, because it's already here, I'm just going to come straight down on this side. When we go to do the other side there, obviously we'll be starting the seam again. So I'm just going to continue down. It's a 10, still 10 millimeters, 1 centimeter seam allowance. I'm just getting a little bit of tension here from here and here, just because I'm finding that my interfacing is moving a little bit. So I'm just providing a little bit of tension to stop it from doing that. Hi, Tina. Okay. There we go. That's great. So now I'm just going to come round to here, and where we've pinned here, we're actually going to have to transfer those pins to this side so that we can sew with all the fabric off to the left of the machine. So I'm just going to do that now, because also I want to make sure, because we could sew it from that side, but then we're going to be going upwards, and I always want to make sure as much as possible we're going down from top to bottom. So if there's any give and drag, it's in the same direction on both sides. So lining up with where your stitching was, overlap a little bit and reverse, following the number 10 on your machine, or 3/8 of an inch, whatever you have on your machine. And remember, if you don't have those markings that you need on your machine, some very basic machines might not have, they might have some lines, but they might not have what the actual markings are. You can put some masking tape on, and you can create your own guideline. And how you would mark that is you would lower your needle into a tape measure at the centimetre mark, and then where it hits it on the machine, you can then place your tape there. Okay, whoop-de-doo. We have successfully now done all of that. We now need to do a bit of understitching, I believe, but let me just triple check that this, it should have not understitching on this, but let me check, because I have a feeling some of our earlier patterns we didn't do it. Da, 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 da. Reinforcing stitching, yes. Yes, so we're doing a little bit of understitching. Okay, so before we do that though, we are going to reinforce this point here. So where we have pivoted here, we're going to reinforce that. So a couple of centimetres either side of the pivot point is where we're going to be reinforcing. So line up on top of your stitching. Pivot in exactly the same place. You're basically just sewing on top of your stitching. Just because we're going to need to cut into this in order to release the neckline so it sits flat. So we have to cut into this point here. So if you're ever doing that, then to create more strength at the point where you're cutting, it's quite normal to do this on jackets and lapels. You do 2 extra bits of stitching. The other place you do that sometimes is in the seat seam of the trousers, just to give that a bit more strength, because if you think as you're sitting and getting up, you're stretching that and pulling that seam. I will never forget when I wore my ultimate trousers one day, and I sat down in them and they split all the way up the back, and I had a thong on. But fortunately I was at work in my shop, so I could quickly mend them. Right. So we are going to do a bit of prepping of these, so a bit of cutting into these seams. So I'm going to cut up into that there, which is the, let's bring it back down again. It's better for you to see it like this. So I'm going to cut up to there. In fact, I'm going to use these, even though they're beasts, they're much sharper. And then in the curve of the back neck facing, I'm going to snip up to the stitch line, but definitely not through it, every couple of centimetres. Just make sure you're getting the rest of the blouse out the way as you're doing that, because you don't want to accidentally snip through it. Okay, and then I'm just at the other corner there, I'm just doing the same. Now, where we've got this curve here, we're going to cut some little triangles to help that sit flat from the right side. So little triangles into the seam allowance, up to this stitch line, but definitely not through it. I'm doing about 4 there. Okay, so that will like that. And the same here on this side. Coco is eating Poppy's food. Coco is permanently on a diet. So she's basically just eating Poppy's food if Poppy doesn't eat it. Oh dear. I have 2 farm cats on my field though, and they're brothers. One of them's really skinny and the other one's really getting big. And I think I saw today why. I was just out in the field, they're both sitting with me. They had their kibble and then they came out onto the field with me, and one of them then saw a mouse or a vole or something, caught it, ate the whole thing, and off he went for a sleep. And the skinny one was too late to the action, didn't get anything, and basically probably went off hungry. So, okay, so we're now doing the understitching. I'll come back to you. Kind of. Say that. Oh, you're about to fall over. Oh no. Hi, Coco. I definitely need to be further back from there. That's a bit better. Right. So we're going to understitch from between these shoulder seams on the back neck facing. So we're going to work from this side. So from the right side, we're going to make sure that the facing is going towards, sorry, the seam allowance is going towards the facing. Okay, there's the collar. Let's move that out of the way. So the collar should be to the left. You should then have the facing to the right. No, Coco, not helpful. Okay, and then all the seam allowances are going off to the right as well. Right, and then I'm going to move my needle over. I've lined up the seam with Coco. I've lined up the seam with the groove in the middle of the foot, and then I've moved my needle to the side, and that way I'll make sure I keep to the right distance evenly all the way along. Okay, we're getting to the next seam, so we're just going to stop there. Okay, so that will help the facing sit inside, and the interfacing, it will help, and will help the facing sit inside, and it will also just help there be a nice gentle roll on the collar there. So we also need to interface the lapel, but only from this point here. So going, I think it says from 2 centimetres from the base of the lapel, understitch the facing to the hem on both sides. Okay, so we're going to turn this through. We're not doing any pressing now, I hope you notice. Now that immediately went through nicely because we've done our little snips. It does need a little bit of smoothing out with the iron, but we'll do that once we've done our understitching. So I am gonna start. So this way this time we're going to change it, because if you think about, I should actually explain this to you. So if I put this on, to think about your understitching when you're doing something like this, because you're going to have, that is going to be like so, okay? So if you're understitching here, you need to understitch onto that side to about the point where it's going to then stop and break into where the first button will be, which I know we haven't talked about. It will be marked on the pattern, but really that's at your bust point. So you might want to just quickly check where that is. And this is the section here that we're going to understitch. So we're going to understitch from there to there on that side. And then for the rest of it, you would then sort of stop and then start your understitching, so that you're understitching on the lapel side, sorry, the facing side. I don't think it says that in those instructions, but that's definitely how it should be done. So I'm going to first do the little section at the top. So for the section sort of from the bust point up to the lapel, I'm going to make sure that the seam allowances are going towards the dress. So it's different. I'm going to move my needle over to the other side, and then away we go. So we're only going up to 2 centimetres below the curve of the lapel. Because it gets too tricky basically. You go as far as you can, which is about 2 centimetres. That's that. Then I'm just going to allow myself a little bit of a break, so that in case I get that slightly wrong, my bust point, and then about 1 centimetre, 2 centimetres below there, I'm then going to understitch from the hem. I'm going to do it from the hem up, and I'm going to understitch the interface, the seam allowance to the facing. So we're changing the direction that the seam allowance is going. So we will need to snip into the seam allowance at that little gap where we stopped and started, so that we're really going to allow it to sit properly and sit flat. So we do this because obviously we don't want the understitching to show on the lapel here, but we still want to benefit from having understitching, so it just needs to change direction. Okay, so I'm just going to trim that. I'm going to show you what I've done. And when we come in to trim here, trim those threads, I'm just going to do a little snip into the seam allowance, which will allow them to go the opposite directions. So that is from where the curve of the lapel is here. Okay, so from there we've got it on the back, and then when it hits the bust point where the first button will be, we have got it on the opposite, so that, because that will go like that and fold backwards, and then that will stay unfolded. I'm just going to press that, and then that will hopefully that you'll see that a little bit more clearly. Okay. I've got to turn my iron on, and yes, I have a cat on the end of the ironing board. Ah, cool. Hello, puppet. Right. So, you can kind of see. I haven't really perfected my setup here yet, have I? I think what I'm going to do is buy some fabric that I can put as a backdrop behind me, and then I'm going to change the direction so that I can have you facing the opposite way. Oh, is that a question? Am I going to see it in time? Is it going to disappear off my screen? Coco wants 5 minutes of fame. Yes, she does. Always. Right. So with the I was wondering if I've got reach a pin. Oh gosh. What I want to do with this is, and you're quite far away, so you can't see. So I'm just going to talk you through what I'm doing. I want to press the lapel and get that curve really spot on. And sometimes you need a pin just to insert into the edge of the seam, just to pull the fabric right out to the edge. Okay. And then press from this side, making sure I can't see the seam allowance. And then I'm flipping it and I'm pressing from this side. So if you were sewing this with me, this would make sense. You would see that you're not going to then see your understitching. I'm going to press that in position actually now, just to help you understand where we're at. We also need to press the neck facing, the back neck facing. I'm not going to bother faffing around with the other one because I want to do the sleeve, do a bit more. But can you now see how that looks? Yeah? Okay, so we can't see the understitching is here. Okay, so that is, let's do the side seams now and give ourselves an armhole, and then we can put a sleeve in, and then I can attempt to try it on. I'm going to have to finish it, and then we can decide whether we think this works as a pattern or not. Ooh, I've forgotten that I did that. So I'm coming to the hem there, and do you remember I did a little curve? So I'm going to leave a little slit there. So I did put in a notch at the point that I want to stop the side seam so that I can create a slit with the hem. So 5/8 of an inch, 1.5 centimetres, starting from the underarm, and away we go into the side seam, which feels a little like the easiest thing in the world after we have just navigated that lapel. But that is the hardest part of the vintage shirt dress, so if you've nailed that, then you can sit back and relax really now. It's all quite standard stuff. It's just popping in a sleeve, doing your hems, buttonholes, that sort of thing. Oh, that said, have I put in the right sleeve? I've only made one. Just sew up actually, let me just whip through the other one as well, because it will then look better when I half try it on for you, won't it? Lovely jubbly. So I am a bit behind with all my admin, But those of you that are in London, I can confirm that I am now going to be running a little Friday sew club from New Craft House. I'm going to do it once a month. Ooh, don't know what happened there. And sew. Ooh, don't know what happened there. And sew together. So I need to put that on my website and link to it. So I will do that, and I will link to it from my Instagram. So Instagram's the best place to find out about where all the links and things are. But yeah, I'm gonna have to get up early and do it tomorrow. Admin was never my strong point, ever. And now I'm having to do all of the admin as well. Never mind. Right. I'm going to press these seams open. Then I'm going to get the sleeve. And we're going to put a sleeve in. So then we've done all of the tricky bits together. Now. Press that seam open, press that seam open. So if you remember, we'd overlocked these in the last session. So all these seams are lovely and finished now. Okay, where did the sleeve? Oh, the sleeve's there. Okay, let's get the sleeve. Leverdex. Aha. For putting a sleeve in. Right. Oh gosh, I keep getting scared. It is definitely loose. That would just be my luck that I just go flying. I've tightened it. Oh, like the ironing board did last time. Right. Which size sleeve do we have? Back. Back is there. That side. Okay. Right, let's just pull up our ease stitching. So like I said, because I'm not using the vintage shirt dress sleeve, I'm using the Nicole sleeve. There will be slightly different sleeve head shapes, but because they are essentially from the same block, the same pattern company, it shouldn't be too dissimilar. Sleeves on the whole are very similar anyway, so even if they're mixing pattern companies, it shouldn't be too much of a problem. It's just if it's a very different sleeve shape, you look at the sort of shape and width of the sleeve of the vintage shirt dress and make sure you're not choosing something that's way out. All I wanted was a classic cuff, but you could also actually alter and add a cuff. You could lengthen and alter actually the existing pattern. Okay, so let's get our notch that goes now. Of course, that's oh yeah, that's going to be annoying. So on the vintage shirt dress sleeve head, you would have a sleeve head notch that lines up with shoulder seam, which is here, so it won't be kind of at the top, but we do not have this because I've changed it, so I'm going to have to do it by eye. We do have though our back pair of notches, so we've got those to be there for us. They might not quite align, but at least they're indicating the back of the sleeve. So I'm just going to pin that bit. It's always the first bit I always pin on a sleeve anyway, because that's the part where there's no easing. So you can kind of pin that and then you sort of see what you're dealing with around the sleeve head. So actually, we're not needing that much easing at all, which is good. So I'm just gonna loosen my ease stitching. So we still do need it in there, but it's definitely not that full. I think the sleeve head for the vintage shirt dress must be a little bit more of a puff? I can't remember. Always pin from the arm sleeve as well, side, not from the armhole side, because we need to be able to see where the easing is. Okay, so the flattest bit is always going to be on the underside when you're sewing. So that's done. I'm now going, oh, I've got those pins in the wrong side. I'm now going to stitch that, starting at the underarm, using my 1.5 centimetre seam allowance, 5/8 of an inch. Ow! I've not been blooming well pricked by a rose bush today. It's a pin. Poor hands. I am still though rocking a nice manicured hand. I've decided this year I'm going to keep my nails. I'm keeping my nails. I just feel like I've lost myself a bit in terms of my style over the past couple of years because I've been so focused on the field that I am now really kind of spending time thinking about what you know how your style does change as you get older, and I've kind of moved away from the vintage vibe and then I've come back to it, and anyway I now really am feeling the vintage thing again. I think probably influenced by the sort of preppy fashion that is kind of around at the moment, but also by finding some couple of really amazing influencers, like style influencers. One Parisian woman that is just to die for. And I just thought, do you know what? I'm going to become vintagey again. I really love that look. It suits my figure. And yes, it will be, I need to change it now because when I first dressed like that, I was in my late 20s and now I'm in my early 40s. But I'm excited about how I'm going to do it. So shirts, tank tops, kind of capri ultimate trousers, lovely kind of pleated trousers as well, like Nina trousers, maybe some nice little skirts with loafers, all sorts of things. So I am more of a trouser person now, but I really want to make those kind of nice dressy trousers, not just jeans. I'm in jeans so often now and I'm just really bored of them. So watch this space. I'm thinking of actually rejigging my whole Instagram account, getting rid of what was on there, and making it basically about reinventing myself through sewing things and finding things on Vinted and using stuff that I've already got and kind of reinventing myself in my 40s in a new style. Sound like I'm a singer that is reinventing their look like Madonna always did, but I don't know, just, yeah, I want to feel good about myself again. I want to like my style again. So I'll take you along for the ride if you want. And it's great because I've got access to all these sew over it patterns that will pretty much, will work. Okay, so I think that is it. That's in. I didn't really talk, did I, much about what I did that, but I just did all the way around. The sleeve is now in. Let's try it on. I've put a long sleeve top on so that I can try it on. Oh. Sticking a bit because it's sticking to the long sleeve top. Now I made a 10, just reminding you of that. In terms of size, I am quite narrow at the back. That isn't going to annoy me that isn't not, well anyway, we're just trying it on for your sake, aren't we? But it is sticking. Okay. Da 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 da. Da, 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 da. Right, first thoughts, it's neat, it is quite a neat fit. That said, I quite like that because I'm going to be tucking it in. Oh, I didn't even do anything with that side, so that's going to look a bit naff, but let's just look at this side, okay? So it's quite good actually, that sleeve does work because that's also quite neat. So this will be tucked into jeans with a nice belt, I think. But if you don't want it too neat, then you might want to go up a size. Oh, I really like that. Oh, yay, it works. It really works. That could do with being a bit longer on me, I think. But never mind. The next one I make, I will lengthen that. But it's fitting really nicely in all the points. Yay! Ah, my idea worked. That's good. Oh yeah, look, that sleeve is too short. Can you see? I can't remember if we used to shorten sleeves for me, but yeah, there needs to be a little bit more length in there. Right, well, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to finish this, and then I will put up a kind of, this is me with it done on Instagram. I'll probably try and finish it on Friday. And then I'm going to do another sew along on Friday in the daytime, probably around 11:30, 12, but I need to confirm that nearer the time. But that will just go online. You can watch it afterwards if you can't join me at that time. And I think I'm going to make the Alice top. I love how I'm really just making things up as I go along, but I just sort of thought, oh, that's what I feel like making this week. So I'm going to make the Alice top, which is a Soviet pattern. It's the booby one. It's kind of like quite booby-ish, but I'm going to try and build it up so that it's not too booby-ish. Right, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you found that useful. I hope you found it interesting to see how it's come together. I will finish it and then I'll show you it, and I will add it to my new look. This is definitely going with my new look that I'm trying to pull together. So don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to buy me a coffee, buymeacoffee.com/Lisa Comfort. And I'll see you on Saturday on Friday.